Hold on a second, Bish. Co-host invite. I'll set you a co-host invite. Let's see. Okay. Alrighty. Hold up. Got to the car. Bish, I sent you a co-host invite. Did it go through?
I'm all good on my end.
Okay, good. I was going to share it out with a couple of the groups that I have and send it to some of the Aussies, and then I'll get started. I literally just scarfed my food down. Like, just got done eating as it hit 5 o'clock.
There we go.
Let's see. We'll be. Let's send it to. Let's see. Some of these guys might not even be up. It's pretty early where y'all are.
8 a.m. is okay. Depends on what kind of Saturday they had, though. If they had a
Sure.
big night.
I've always been curious to know if I should have done these EVM episodes on a day other than Saturday. But we'll see how it goes.
We'll see what happens. I'm all ears.
Well, it's also recorded, so a lot of guys in the groups will go back and listen to it after the fact. But
that's right.
Let's see. I'll send a link out to my dive bar group. Usually they're up here. Saturdays are hit or miss. Sometimes Saturdays are really, really busy, and sometimes they're really, really slow. So there's no in between usually. Let's see. Mansa, welcome. Glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me. Let's get this show on the road.
Sure. Well, we'll go ahead and get started, and if anybody just jumps in, they jump in. It's a recorded space, so I'll shoot the recordings back out to the group messages, like to the Stokesakins and stuff like that. Bish, welcome. Glad to have you here. EVM14.
Thank you for having me, man.
Yes, sir. Really just want to get started. Tell us about Stormrake, man. Tell us about you. Tell us about the history of your company and what are you guys up to right now?
Absolutely. So Stormrake itself got started back in 2015 as like an arbitrage trading desk. Our co-founders, Doug and Mike, started it up because they were already in markets, but they saw massive trading opportunities in the crypto space, particularly when you're talking about like being able to pick up a 20-30% gain on Bitcoin just by buying it on, say, an American exchange and selling it on a Korean or Japanese exchange. You'd collect a massive premium between the two different spot prices. So they fell in love with it on that side, but they quickly found that they wanted to stay in the space purely because of the interest in the markets themselves, like what Bitcoin was all about. And I had a very similar journey in 2015, 2016. I was on an FX trading desk. That's for foreign exchange. For those who are not familiar, I was mainly responsible for Aussie and yen pairing trades and Aussie and yen markets, I should say. And that was what my background was. I started out in foreign exchange and I wanted to find some new opportunities. Bitcoin just kept coming up in the FX forums that I was trolling through. And then that's how I kind of came to fall in love with and discover the space. So for 4 years, Mike, Doug, and myself continued to learn more and more as we could about Bitcoin. And as we all know, Bitcoin is one of those topics where you'll never get to the bottom of that well. You will keep drinking, but you'll never empty it. And so even to this day, we're still learning. I discover new things about this space all the time. So that was what took us up to about 2019. That's when the brokerage arm actually came into existence, because as we got more and more participants coming into the markets to come in and trade, we found that the edge in trading arbitrage models was diminishing. So what we decided to do was to spin up the brokerage arm of our business, which people have now come to know and love and deal with all the time. And I joined the desk, Stormrake desk, in 22. as the first employee. And 22 was, as if some of you were here or around at that time, was not the best time to be in crypto, to be completely fair. We had gotten beaten up that 6 months after I'd pretty much joined. We had, Celsius, Luna, 3 Arrows Capital, FTX, BlockFi, Genesis, all of these players, massive institutions, completely disappeared, and got smashed 6 months into when I had started my brokerage work at Stormrake. But I had really believed in what these guys were building, and I knew that the brokerage model would work because I had worked in a number of crypto brokerages before, some in Melbourne as well. And so I was like, I know that the service exists. I know the model will work. We just got to persevere, and we did. And now we look after 2,500 people across Australia and New Zealand, and setting our eyes on international expansion so we can service people from other jurisdictions as well. That pretty much brings us up to today.
Awesome. That's a good overview. Um, what has the growth been look like for you? So you started kind of in the bear market. Has the growth started to take off within the last 6 to 8 months that Bitcoin started to run, or what does your growth look like since you started in 22?
Yeah, absolutely. You banged it on the head there. So pretty much like from August, September last year, that's when we really started to take off. To give you some context, in May of 2023, we had less than 150 customers, that people who were actively trading with us, at least in the last 90 days, for example, was less than 150. Now that's at 2,200 within a year.
Wow, that's nice growth. Yeah, I have high hopes for the crypto industry in the future. I mean, even though it feels like it feels like we can't catch these dips quick enough. We're still very, very, very early in the space. When I talk to just people in my regular life, um, they nobody knows about cryptocurrency. You have a few people that have maybe heard of Bitcoin, but they're all just kind of still living under the fiat Ponzi. And so what I want to do is I want to transition that into your business model. So you're a broker, like almost like a traditional financial broker for cryptocurrency. So you're filling a niche in the market that I haven't seen anybody else do. Um,
That's right.
and and so I kind of want to talk about that a little bit more. What led you to take the broker model rather than custodying other crypto or like an exchange model? Um,
It's a fantastic question, Ev, and I really appreciate it because I spend most of my day answering that question for people. Like, why wouldn't I just trade with an exchange as opposed to a broker? Now, it doesn't need to necessarily be an either or situation where you have to make a choice as to who you're going to trade through. You don't have to exclusively use a broker. You don't have to exclusively use an exchange. You can use both and maximize, coverage. In cases where you might want to use an exchange or a DEX, for example, is when you might want to be able to pump in a couple of $100, right? You want to have a go, you want to try out a new market. You don't want to have to necessarily, go through a broker for such an allocation. Whereas if you're going to be putting in a sizable investment, whether that be into Bitcoin, Ethereum, or an alt, right? You're going to want a broker to look after it because we're plugged into about 30 different exchanges at the moment and 5 different OTC desks, which are streaming us prices. And that will allow us to get you the best possible execution price across many different markets and pairings because we're scanning across 6,000 different order books. You might want to use a broker when, say, for example, you want to have some complex swaps, which are not just like an ERC20 swap. If it's just an ERC20 swap, do it on Uniswap. That'll be the most cost effective and easiest route. But if you've got multi chain and multi coin swaps that need to be done, and you want to swap it into a bunch of other coins, then that's when you'd want to also use a broker as well. And we would be able to provide you this most seamless fiat on and off ramps. A lot of different exchanges have limits as to how much you can withdraw. And with banks, they've been really nasty towards the crypto industry. They have limits as to how much you can deposit towards crypto exchanges. Whereas you solve that problem right away by dealing with the broker, you're not going to have any deposit or withdrawal limits. So that problem is effectively disappeared overnight. So that's really why we wanted to go down the brokerage model, is we wanted to provide a personalized service, because a lot of our friends and family, when they came to us to use the service, they struggled, man. Like, they honestly, we had a basic user interface that we would give them to place orders in that would face our exchanges, but they would get overwhelmed. There was so many prices coming at them, so many order routes that they could take. And we were like, you know what? We're in this industry every day, 7 days a week. We live and breathe it. Why are we going to trouble our, at the time, mums and dads? Because those were our first customers, to be honest, with our product, right? Why don't we just provide them a service, and then we'll deal with all of our trading interfaces, our terminals, and then they just simply drop us a text, shoot us an email, or give us a call, and we give them and they give us their order. And that was a great success for, if my mum can use it, anybody can use it, because bless her soul, she's not exactly the most tech intuitive person. So if she was able to get some Bitcoin with me, then anybody can do it.
That's a good overview. I'm trying to. So let's say, um, so my stance on crypto is, sort of like the maxi side, and what I mean by that is not necessarily the Bitcoin maxi, but I'm a like self custody maxi, and anybody that asks me, hey, can you tell me more about this cryptocurrency stuff? And you get being the crypto guy in like a friend group, you're going to have a lot of people that come to you and say, hey, can you explain this to me? And I always tell them to start with Bitcoin, start learning about the fiat system and learn how to custody your crypto. And cryptocurrency is revolutionary in a couple of different ways. One is it puts a hard cap, at least Bitcoin specifically, puts a hard cap on the money supply. You can't print more of it. The second thing it does is it allows you to separate money from the state by custodying your own currency, which is your property, in your possession. You don't have to trust a bank. You don't have to trust a middleman. And if you do it effectively,
it's, 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 it's